How do we budget?
There are as many different ways to construct budgets as there are organizations that seek to do so. Fortunately for the student of budgeting, however, the many different specific approaches used by various units of government are really variations on a few simple themes. This set of exercises introduces the fundamental approaches that constitute the building blocks of all budget systems. Once the logic of these systems is mastered, we can understand and reproduce virtually any budgetary system. It is necessary only to take an organizing pinch from one and add a conceptual dash or two from another. There are 4 basic budget systems. Line item budgeting, performance budgeting, He4 represent a historical progression in ideas about budgeting, with line item budgeting the earliest and outcome-based budgeting the most recent. This is not to say that later ideas have displaced earlier ideas, at least not completely. Line item budgeting is a fundamental building block for all budgeting systems. Many of the concepts of performance and program budgeting are widely incorporated into today's approach to budgeting. Generally speaking, the line of progression has been from less complex to more complex, as we have asked our budgeting systems to undertake more and more tasks. Exercise 16. Line item budgeting. Budgeting for control. Line item budgeting is the oldest and most ubiquitous form of budgeting. So widely used is this technique, in fact, that to most people a budget is a line item budget, even if they've never heard the term. Table 16.1 is an example of a line item budget. Note that it contains 2 basic elements, a commodity to be purchased, employee salaries, office supplies, computer, etc., and a cost. Although line item budgets can be organized in many different ways, similar commodities are usually classified together. This makes it easier for the budget to be read and interpreted. Some line item budgets are more detailed and include more information than others. For instance, the office supplies category in this Department of Parks and Recreation budget might, in another organization's budget, be broken down into pencils, paper, Some line item budgets are more detailed and include more information than others. For instance, the office supplies category in this Department of Parks and Recreation budget might, in another organization's budget, be broken down into pencils, paper clips, staples, and so forth. The amount of detail in a line item budget is a function of the amount of control that central budget administrators wish to extend over their operating units. The more autonomy and discretion granted, the less detailed the line item budget. The idea of control is central to line item budgeting. Line item budgets were developed initially and have retained their popularity precisely because they provide such an effective means of controlling public expenditures. The information that a line item budget offers can also be expanded by providing extra data on costs or expenditures. The budget in Table 16.1 shows actual expenditures for FY, fiscal year, 2017 to 2018, as well as the FY 2018 to 2019 request. Some line item budgets require the organization to show expenditures in earlier years, example FY 2016 to 2017, or to provide a column of figures that show the percentage change from one year's expenditure to the next. Information of this kind is often used by public officials, especially legislators, to help them decide whether to grant a budget request. Table 6. Any item budgeting is included in the readings suggested for Part 4 as a whole. Especially enterprising students may wish to read through the report of the Taft Commission of 1912 and the Budget and Accounting Act of 1921. These two documents, which had formative effects on budgeting in the federal government, are presented in Albert C. Hyde and J. M. Shafreet's, eds, Government Budgeting, Theory, Process, Politics, Oak Park, Illinois, Moore, 1978. Overview of exercise. The Adams County Board of Supervisors recently approved a plan to consolidate library services in the county. In an effort to cut costs and improve services next year, the public libraries from the county's 6 incorporated towns, 4 villages, and 1 city are to be merged and operated as one system. Complicated negotiations by county officials, municipal officials, and representatives of 2 public employee unions have produced an agreement for a single new organizational structure known as the Adams County Library. As Deputy County Budget Director, it is your responsibility to prepare an initial line item budget for the new consolidated library system. Your task is complicated because there is no single budget base on which to build. Because the system is new, you basically have to start from scratch. You do have 2 sources of information to guide your efforts, however. The first is a memorandum from the budget director outlining her expectations and those of the county supervisors with respect to the new library system. Second, you have a line item budget of the operating expenses for each of the 11 units to be consolidated. Instructions. Step 1. Read the memo from the Budget Director, Form 78, and review your budget survey data, Form 79A through 79K. Step 2. Use Budget Request Form 80 to construct a line item budget for the new Adams County Library. Make sure you take Budget Director Johnson's directives into account. Note, if your instructor agrees, you may want to use the spreadsheet available for this step. Step 3. Answer the questions on Form 81. You know, the supervisors voted last night to approve the consolidation plan for the county library system. I'd like you to take charge of putting together a preliminary first-year budget for the board's review. Your budget should take the following points into consideration. 1. All existing public libraries in the county, including the branches in the city of Waynesfield, are to remain open. 2. The county's cost-sharing agreement with the municipalities assumes that there will be an overall savings of 3%, from the aggregate of the existing library budgets. 3. Cuts defined either as elimination or reduction in hours to full-time library employee positions are limited to 5 at the professional level and 8 among support staff. There are no restrictions on cuts in other expenditure categories. 4. As per the county's agreement with the public employee unions, salary scales within job classifications are to be standardized at the highest levels currently paid by any of the newly consolidated units. This policy is to be applied to all positions. 5. All township and village librarians previously designated head librarians, full or part-time, are to be redesignated branch librarians and are to be compensated accordingly. 6. A new position, Director of County Libraries, is to be created, budgeted at $90,000. As the start-up date for the new system is July 1st, we'll include this in our regular budget cycle. Please have all documentation completed by December 15th. Form 79A. Adams County Library Budget, Fiscal Year 1.